Hi, welcome back. So we're in chapter 1, introduction, prediction from the start to the end. In this chapter, we're going to be looking at a number of outlines. First, we'll be looking at the course strategy, and then principle of data, and then data platform, and finally, we'll be looking at timeline representative. Let's go ahead and explore the first outline, course strategy. Given the name of the book, Prediction from the Start to the End, it's important to establish certain principles in order really to fundamentally understand the concept of prediction. To this end, I have invented over the year a certain strategy that personally helped me to understand prediction from the start all the way to the end. And this strategy, I call it the TPCI strategy. And basically, it starts by establishing a theoretical understanding of the subject at hand. In other words, what we're going to do in every subject, we're going to try to understand the theory behind the subject. And once we establish that theoretical understanding using any available tools, for example, I might use only language to explain the theory or to understand the theory. Or maybe we might use a mathematical tool to explain or to understand the theory. It doesn't really matter, any available tool as well. But the idea is to establish that theoretical understanding about the subject. And once that happened, then we are ready to move to the perceptual understanding of the subject. And perceptual understanding of a subject means it giving you the ability to understand relationship. For example, I give you the map of the world, then you understand the relationship between the countries. So that means, in other words, the perceptual framework, it gives you the ability to see relationship between things that you won't be able to see it if you looked only at the data. And then once the perceptual framework is ready, we are ready to move to the conceptual framework. And the conceptual framework, basically, it defines the abstract ideas surrounding the subject that we're trying to learn about it. Say, for example, we are trying to develop a predictive model to predict the level of stress of a subject once exposed to a certain environment. We might be able to define certain tools to measure the stress, to implement certain functions mathematically to make the prediction happen, and then we start to predict if a subject will have that level of stress or not. But there is an important step that we must have understood before we proceed all these steps, and that is by understanding what do we mean with the stress. So the conceptual framework help us actually to define the core concept surrounding the phenomena or the subject we are trying to study. Finally, to the world of implementation, and that is implement actually towards the solution. So this is the strategy we're going to be working on, from theoretical to perceptual to conceptual, and finally to implement the solution. Next, we'll be looking at principle of data. I will see you then.